And we do have our final session, our final speaker today. She's actually one of our first speakers, so Dr. McNamara. She's going to be speaking to us about nutrition literacy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jade McNamara. I'm assistant professor at the University of Maine, and I'm here to present the survey, the Young Adult Nutrition Literacy Survey. So this survey was developed at UMaine with the help of Zach Kunicki, PhD, Lee Neptune, Caleb Parsons, and then Dr. Carol Birdbrunner from Rutgers University. This instrument has been published in the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior, and it was supported by the Ag Experimental Station through Maine and New Jersey. Okay, Young Adult Nutrition Literacy Survey. So first, to give you an overview of nutrition literacy, it's the framework that I use for nutrition literacy is based off Nupfeim's conceptual model of health literacy, and then is adapted to nutrition literacy. And that breaks nutrition literacy up into different domains. You have functional, interactive, and critical. Functional would be someone's basic nutrition knowledge, where interactive is applying nutrition knowledge in changing circumstances. And then critical is critically analyzing information, but then also advocating for healthful environments. College students, health and nutrition literacy. So college students are a population that are vulnerable to experiencing poor overall health. We see a lot of, in the data that we collect, that college students aren't eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, they're not participating in a lot of physical activity, and they have really poor stress and anxiety and overall mental health. It's a really important population to focus on when we're thinking of, how do we improve the health of our population? And research suggests that increased nutrition knowledge, such as functional nutrition literacy, and then perceived self-efficacy for healthful eating, which can be captured in interactive nutrition literacy, and then also critical appraisal skills that fall under critical nutrition literacy, has been associated with increased diet quality. Other surveys other research has shown that in different populations that nutrition literacy is a predictor of healthful eating and overall improved healthfulness. And there are valid and reliable instruments available to assess health literacy constructs, including nutrition literacy. However, none exist used to exist that assess all three domains of nutrition literacy. And I myself was particularly interested in assessing all the different domains of nutrition literacy in college students. Therefore, the objective of this was to develop an instrument that does assess young adults' perceived nutrition literacy, functional, interactive, and critical. Perceived is important because we're not testing them on their nutrition knowledge or really assessing if they have the necessary skills that they're saying they have. We're just assessing their perception of their own nutrition literacy. The methods was a 6-step process of item development. We first started with focus groups to help us with item generation. Then with those item generation, we went into expert review of generated items. We then conducted an exploratory factor structure analysis. We also did confirmatory factor analysis, item refinement and modification, factor structure validation, which was a confirmatory factor analysis, and then criterion validation. For criterion validation, we were looking to see if the nutrition literacy items that we developed were related to eating behaviors. We had 3 independent samples for this study. The first was a sample of college students from the University of Maine that we conducted focus groups with, and we had 24 participants with that. Then we had a sample of experts in the field of nutrition and dietetics help us review the generated items, and we had 10 experts help with that. And then we conducted the full survey with college students from the University of Maine and Rutgers University for psychometric validation and criterion validation analysis. And we had a sample of 672 participants. For item generation, expert review, we generated 133 items using outcomes and themes identified in the focus groups. We also had items that had already been developed by other surveys outside of the United States to see how they did in a US population. Experts in nutrition and dietetics, again, reviewed those items that were generated, and we asked them to fill out a survey based on the different items, and the response options ranged from 1, not important, to 4, very important in terms of nutrition literacy. And there was also the option to select don't understand / difficult to answer. Items after that were sorted by the research team, which consisted of 5 people that were researchers in the area of nutrition and dietetics. And we sorted them into either capturing functional, interactive, or critical nutrition literacy. The results, and then after that, after we sorted those, then we disseminated the large survey to that 672 participants from the University of Maine and the University of Rutgers. So based on the survey, that large survey that went out, we had about 62.5% people identified as female, 82.5% were white. They were about 19 or about 20 years old, plus or minus 1.8 years. And their average fruit and vegetable intake was 2.2 servings per day. So, not meeting the USDA dietary guidelines for fruit and vegetable intake, but that's pretty typical of what we see in their college student population. We had 123 items in that large survey after going through the expert review process. And from those 123 items, 30 items had ceiling or floor effects based on skewness values, meaning that no participant endorsed that item strongly agree or strongly disagree category, and they were dropped from further analysis just because they weren't very discriminatory between people with higher and lower nutritional literacy. Based on the confirmatory factor analysis results, the functional nutrition literacy scale had to best fit with a 2-factor model. And we define these as components of a healthy diet and perceived understanding of healthful eating information. The interactive nutritional literacy scale was a 1-factor model. And then the critical nutritional literacy scale was best fit a 4-factor model. So advocacy for a healthful food environment, perceived ability to identify reliable nutrition information, credible online sources of nutrition information, and then critical appraisal skills of nutrition information from varying sources. And we'll go through some of these items. For the functional nutrition literacy, again, it was 2-factor model. So you can see factor 1 was these 3 items and factor 2 are these 3 items. And the ones that stuck around after a confirmatory factor analysis were foods like bread, rice, and cereal cannot be part of a healthy diet. Eating a diet low in carbohydrates is part of a healthy lifestyle. And then looking at factor 2, I'm aware of at least 3 of the 2015 dietary guidelines. I know the difference between a nutritionist and a registered dietitian. So again, this is getting at the basis of nutrition knowledge. Interactive nutritional literacy, I kind of think is a little more interesting and a good representation of can someone really eat a healthy diet, and I feel like they would need interactive nutrition literacy skills. So this is looking at, again, interactive nutrition literacy is people being able to apply nutrition knowledge in differing scenarios or situations. Some examples from this scale: I can select foods for a low sodium eating plan. I can eat healthy on a budget. I can give someone healthy eating advice. I can plan healthy meals for a week. I can select a healthy meal when eating out. I can select foods for a low carbohydrate eating plan, and so on. Then we have critical nutrition literacy, which again, critical nutrition literacy has 2 different components to it. One is advocacy, and the other one is critical appraisal skills. And I'm just showing two examples, or factor 1 and factor 2 from the nutrition literacy scale, which really is 4 factors. We also have a couple other factors in there looking at critical appraisal. But I think these are the really interesting ones for critical nutritional literacy. The first factor is advocacy. So these are just 3 items from that scale, but I would participate in a campaign to bring healthier food to campus. I try to avoid eating from fast food chain restaurants due to their impact on society. I'm concerned that not all people have access to healthy foods. And then the next factor is a focus on critical appraisal. I can identify credible sources of nutrition information. I base my diet on information I get from scientifically recognized literature, and then some examples of that. I can identify scientific nutritional findings from non-scientific. Looking at how these scales did with conversion and criterion validity, again, looking at how they are correlated to each other, but then also how they were correlated with fruit and vegetable intake. Let's look down at the fruit and vegetable intake. So we see that functional nutrition literacy actually was not significantly correlated with fruit and vegetable intake. And that was the only factor that was not correlated. Factor 2 of functional nutritional literacy was. And if we look back at what factor 1 was, as food like rice, bread, rice, and cereal cannot be part of a healthy diet. Eating a diet low in carbohydrates is part of a healthy lifestyle, and eating a diet low in fat is part of a healthy lifestyle. So these are, that's factor 1, and that was not correlated with fruit and vegetable intake. Factor 2 was interactive nutritional literacy was significantly correlated, and so was factor 1 of critical nutritional literacy, factor 2, and then factor 3 and 4 of critical nutritional literacy also were significantly correlated. And this again these 2 also were about critical appraisal skills, this one in social media and this one from varying sources. Based on our overall conclusions, that researchers and college health/wellness professionals can use this tool to assess young adults' willingness support of healthful food environment changes on a large scale. So I think one of the really interesting and novel parts of this survey is that critical nutrition literacy for advocacy of healthful food environments, you really can gauge students' interest on campus and how willing or how strongly they would be to support healthful changes on their campus. The other part that is novel in this survey that adds greatly to the literature is the interactive nutrition literacy scale. There's not a nutritional literacy scale out there that's focused on interactive nutrition literacy. So it's pretty interesting to use, and we've seen it be a very strong predictor of healthy eating index scores also in college students. Future work include validation studies to assess how factors relate to dietary behaviors, such as overall diet quality, which we have done with looking at HEI, and then further looking into fruit and vegetable intake. We see pretty consistent results in that interactive nutrition literacy and those 2 factors of critical nutrition literacy are strong predictors of healthy eating index, which is an overall indicator of diet quality. And then in the future, we're working on to see how interventions can work to improve students' nutritional literacy and what that means for improvement in their overall diet quality. Okay, thank you for listening. Appreciate your time, and please let me know if you have any questions around this survey.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation. I know we had a really packed session today for our final research tool presentation. So again, thank you so much to all of our speakers for speaking with us today and for all of the attendees.